Well, welcome, all three of you. So today, normally I'm talking with some sporty boys on the Moorpark Reporter Sportcast, but today I'm moving from the sweaty midsection up to the upper crust of the Moorpark Reporter Society. I've got our co-editors-in-chief with us today, Emily Ledesma and Ryan Bough. And of course, our faculty advisor, fearless leader, and supermom, Kelsey Stuart. Let's move on to the year in review. We're finishing off 2020, and I dare say it's been a year.
Yes.
So I want to start off at the beginning of the year. We had big plans. We came out of 2019 into 2020. We had banquets planned, JCC, and we started off covering everything, a college newspaper should cover. We covered the massive festival we had in our quad for Black History Month. We covered Club Rush, where clubs just lined table to table all along Raider Walk, people walking, talking. We covered a DJ showcase where people got to go crowd together, listen to student DJs, and even Ira the Lion's birthday at the America's Teaching Zoo in Moorpark College. All things we really can't have now. Then March 12th, we all got the email, the text message notification saying go home, where we've been for the since then.
Forever.
So I want to ask you guys, what was it like being part of the Moorpark Reporter past this year? Kelsey, just having to advise through the transition to online only and then into a new semester with new editors in chief. And Emily, Ryan, what was it like starting off as writers and desk editors and then starting a new semester digitally only as the leaders of our ensemble?
Okay, well, I will have to say that we were highly prepared already to be online due to our digital publication nature. So we had all of that going. What we were not prepared for, I think mostly, was the lack of just time we would get together. Our newsroom became our cafe, our break room, our dream session room, our planning room, our community room. And we had just literally, and Dom can attest to this, finished hanging. Like, it was like we had just been like tink tink, and it was like all done, and they like closed the campus. And our newsroom had like a couch in it, had twinkly lights, it had clocks. We were just starting up with the decor. We got a new logo from an art student in the back of the newsroom, and we were just kind of decking it all out and just starting to kind of really own our new name, because we just switched from the Student Voice to the Moorpark Reporter. So we were just kind of crafting what that new name and what that new like entity was going to kind of bring us as a community, as a campus and community newspaper. So that was hard to swallow in a sense, because we had set up everything and we were just ready to just launch and just go straight forward into that. And the brakes pulled so fast for everything. I think it pulled insanely fast for all of us. So I still think we rallied again when I talked to other advisors. We had the best setup to go through this transition, even though that wasn't our first choice, but we had the best setup already just because we were already digital. We didn't have anything to print. We were really set up for a virtual environment anyways. We just miss being with each other to create more of a community.
Okay, so I actually started spring 2020 as the public relations director, so I wasn't writing as much. I was doing a lot more of the social media and making content for that. So there was definitely a change leaving campus, because a lot of the things that we would post were on campus. We would take like videos on campus, and we couldn't really do that anymore. So it was a little more difficult in that regard. Changing to being co-editor-in-chief was kind of way different, because I hadn't been doing that the previous semester. And there's a lot to learn. There's a lot of different websites, a lot of different things that you need to learn, like with AP style, and even just kind of being like in more of a leadership role. I'm really glad that I got to do it with Ryan, because he's so awesome. with him by my side. He just like always kills it. So I think it was definitely a change. I think we adapted well because we kind of already were online. It was just a little more difficult with like the new writers, because I feel like we're kind of taught that the best way to do interviews is in person. So it was a little more difficult with emailing people, trying to get in contact with people. It was super difficult this semester. People just were like losing their minds, like they'd never used the internet before. But yeah, that's how it went. I think as a whole, we did as best as we could, and our best was good enough, I think.
Well said.
Yeah, definitely. Spring 2020, I was the news and government editor, and I remember watching this strange new virus coming from China. Just 20, 30 cases, not really thinking too much of it. Probably in February, I believe, is when we first heard about it in our newsroom. And then that date, March 12th, I believe, just came up so fast. Just everything stopped, and we were immediately put online. But since we are a daily digital publication, it was pretty easy for us to transition online. Really, the newsroom was only for just kind of talking to each other and kind of seeing each other and working like in that newsroom environment. So going online didn't take too much of a toll on the first couple weeks of reporting. After that, we did drop a little bit because there weren't too many stories that weren't coronavirus related, because everything's getting shut down around then. But I do think it took a little bit more of an emotional toll than it did towards the paper, not being able to see our peers, having to cancel our banquet. I believe it happened just a week before JACC, where we expected some big wins. So that was pretty unfortunate, but we were fortunate enough to have Zoom, and we were fortunate enough to have that first part of the semester. And moving into the co-editor-in-chief role, we were trained pretty well during the summer. Our former editor, Whitney Bussell, she took time out of her day to help train us and get us ready for that. So I think we had a smooth start and started publishing in February 2020 and started that daily ball rolling. It was tough not being able to see our writers in person, not being able to share the newsroom with them with the twinkly lights and the couch, but but I think we did good this semester. I think we had a good transition, and we continued our daily publications.
All right. So I kind of want to build on that. You, Emily, you mentioned having to learn all the different sites involved in publishing. Ryan, you mentioned the emotional toll. Kelsey, you mentioned kind of the team toll of not having like the banquet, and JCC, which is a journalism conference for community college papers in California.
Right.
So I just want to ask you guys, if you had to pick the biggest challenge of 2020, what was the biggest challenge you think we faced as a newsroom?
I think our biggest challenge we had was just the kind of community aspect we build, almost a family aspect we build with the staff. We can't really do that over Zoom. I was only able to see all of our staff members once this semester for our photo shoot, but other than that, just over Zoom, an hour-long meeting, I think that really hurt the kind of like family vibe we like to get with the paper. And it definitely affected some people. And I do wish we were able to see them more and team build more, but that's definitely something we'll build on next semester.
Yeah, I agree. I think the biggest like hardship or the biggest toll that we took was definitely like our sense of community, because I feel like I personally learned really well when I'm around a group of people and we're all just like encouraging each other, bouncing ideas off of each other. And we really weren't able to do that this year. I personally like have not met like half of the new staff, which kind of sucks, because being in a leadership role, it's like, hey, like I want to help you, and it's really hard doing that like digitally, especially. I think the newsroom, when we were back on campus, even when we weren't in class, people were in the newsroom. They were just kicking it. They were just like talking and like building friendships and getting to know each other. And I think that was definitely the worst side of the COVID effects, because that's just like what is a key part of like Moorpark Reporter and like who we are.
Yeah, I would second that. We had class, every Tuesday, Thursday, 10 to 12. but everybody would stay definitely Tuesdays and Thursdays till about 4, 5 maybe. And then Mondays and Wednesdays and Fridays, you guys were even there, at least Mondays and Wednesdays, just finishing up projects or, touching up on photos or even taking photos and assigning them out. We had our equipment room. That was actually huge, not being able to get to that because students needed photos and, or they needed equipment to take the photos for whatever photos we were able to take at that point. So that was huge, not having that. But another thing that we did after, I don't know if this was spring, I think it was last fall, I think about a year ago, didn't we go to pizza, or we did a pizza night, right? Yeah, that was a year ago. And we had promised that we were going to do that every semester at least, because team bonding is just insanely huge. And interpersonal relations, I'm like super big on, just because it just, when you create a family, you want to be there for your family. And we don't like have stragglers just don't show up or just kind of peace out, which can happen in an online community because there's not as much there's not as much that they've put into it, I guess, in a sense, because you're just like virtual. But yeah, we definitely missed that. I loved doing what we got, in the past 2 years I've been doing this, that what we got that first semester, just, all meeting, just having like breaking bread together, that kind of thing was just huge. We had a lot of food actually that we'd bring in. I would say almost every other week we would have like donuts or pizza or whatever. We had a lot of like just times that we would just celebrate, and we wanted to celebrate even like the small milestones so that we would just work up to the big ones, with, for instance, like, hey, we had 100 stories published, or so-and-so published 12 stories, whatever it was, we always wanted to celebrate it. So I think that definitely was the hardest, because when you create those kind of relationships, you create just a sense of just like having each other's backs and wanting the same goal with the paper. Hey, we want to publish not just daily, but we want to make sure we're covering like, actual live breaking news stories. And that was something so cool to see. First semester fall 2019, we had our co-editor, and we also had Ryan and a couple others covering breaking news fire stories. So that was so fun to see. They would be out on calls in the middle of the night, just following the police scanner, or just being journalists, like live journalists. So that was so fun to be a part of. And we're hoping that we can get back into that, just covering breaking news, having, just the desire for that, and also the expertise to develop that in our new writers and photographers. So, yeah.
All right. So, building off of those challenges, all three of you mentioned that losing that sense of community. What are your favorite stories to come out of the Moorpark Reporter this past year? So spring, fall, are there any projects that as a paper you're proud to have shepherded through, to have helped students create?
Okay, I pulled some up so I could have some stuff to talk about. So like with the beginning of the year, the Reopen California rally. It was at the Ventura County Government Center. I believe I went with Tara and I went with Evan as well. And that was like my first time ever covering like a rally or anything like kind of political. And I think that was really fun. It was fun to do with my fellow reporters as well. So that was the beginning of the year. I thought that was really great, just because it was giving kind of like insight to what was like happening. And it was kind of like mid-COVID too as well. So it was kind of like shocking to see. I know we wrote a lot of COVID articles this year, which was really great. If you go through like all of our like published articles, you can literally tell throughout the year, like, oh, Ventura County is in the fourth tier. Oh, now they're in the red tier. Oh, here are the guidelines for Halloween. Oh yeah, now we're back in the fourth tier. Like you can really kind of like map out our progress just with the articles that we've written. But I will say that I think my favorite article that was written this year is, it was actually a game review. It was Dominic and Ryan's game review for Assassin's Creed Valhalla. That was my favorite review. just because it was so descriptive, and I don't usually play video games, and that like really made me want to play that. I thought it was a great opportunity. I think it's even great that we had that opportunity this year to do game reviews, and having the Moorpark Reporter getting like content from Ubisoft, I believe, and you guys taking the initiative in doing that. So I thought that was really, really great. I think we did a lot of great things this year. In addition to that, like with podcasts and getting everything going and like the social media. So I think despite COVID, we were able to do a lot of new things, and I think that was just great.
I agree with Emily. I honestly, I'm not going to pick one story. I tend to lean more towards, I think, the effectiveness of us covering government stories and breaking news. That's probably what I would lean towards, just because it's just impressive of what our student staff writers can cover, especially with the limitations right now. Like literally, most papers are not doing what we're doing. They're not pumping out the type of content that we're doing or the amount of content that we're doing right now. So that's a huge plus, because we can't make that happen. That we can request it, and we can want or desire to have that type of content covered, but we can't make people necessarily follow government meetings, agendas, and a lot of that has been on Ryan, because he's been incredible and just training up and focusing on just kind of like giving a successful kind of summary of the networks, of the government committees, of the city councils, of kind of what's going on. You summarized it great, Ryan. And then also we're able to train up just reporters to the effect that now we're splitting our breaking news, or we're splitting our breaking news slash government desk. So it's two different departments now. So we have two new desk editors coming in the spring, which is just incredible. So we're growing in numbers, we're growing in expertise, and that's huge. On the flip side, Emily, who was our past PR manager, has also helped to super develop not only Leslie's position, which is the new PR manager, but also Tara's, which Ryan's helped with too. She's our data analyst. So we were able to add another position onto that. And then Dom, who was our student life desk editor, has now been bumped into his own desk because he's done such a phenomenal job with podcasts. So now he's our podcast slash multimedia desk editor or department. So I think for me, I am so proud that we've actually not only pumped out content that's worthy of being read and worthy of being published, but also that we've exceeded that content to an extent that we are going to actually expand our desks, and that we have over a dozen new writers coming in the spring. So we're expanding, and we're gaining expertise. So that's huge to me. That's exactly what we're looking for. And to touch on, our public relations department has gotten incredibly crafty with, even though there's not events to cover or things going on, to repost things that are going on virtually on campus or around the community, but also to kind of shout out our content, and then also create ways for us to recruit. So I think all in all, everyone's been pulling their weight and then some with this. So that's been huge this year.
Yeah, we've had some tremendous stories this year, and it is extremely hard to choose just one. So I'm not going to choose just one. I'm going to choose a couple, but before I do, they were all fantastic. I can't think of one story that I'm like, oh, this is bad, we shouldn't publish this. I think the content we've pumped out this year has been over the line, and it's been fantastic. And I'm excited to see what these same writers do if they come back next semester and see how they grow. Going into that, I think our COVID-19 coverage this semester was really good. We had multiple writers covering the Ventura County press conferences, the state conferences. They give us updates about the numbers, updates about the vaccines. I think we did a really good job staying on top of that and just getting that out to our readers. But the individual stories, I also have a few things pulled up. One of my favorites would be one on Halloween, where the Ventura County Police Department had a socially distanced drive-through trick-or-treating event. So it was hosted over at the TOPD station and the other station in Ventura. It was a collaboration between the Ventura County Sheriff's Association and the Unity to Spark Change Foundation. It was just overall a really great event. I was there with Audrey Lang, who was writing the story. I was doing photos. It was just overall a really nice feel-good story of some positivity back into the community. And the other story that I really like, I just like this one just because of the energy around it, was our story about the Dodgers winning the 2020 World Series. I remember probably like most people in LA were watching the World Series, seeing the Dodgers win with that third strike. And I know I was immediately on Slack messaging, can someone get a story out? Can someone get a story out? And Mitch rose to the occasion and got that out. I think that was our latest publishing. I believe we got that out in midnight, I think. But it was a really great story, a really great recap of the game. And I just like that story. Just go Dodgers.
Speaking of the sports department, with Danny Stepanovich,
Yeah.
with Kennedy Collier, Mitchell Ross, Max Clark, they've all just absolutely killed it out of the water this semester. They really, at least impressed me personally. They really took the initiative with a lot of their sports stories, with their coverage, coming with different ideas. And then you, Dom, I also consider you low-key kind of part of the sports department, because you took charge making the Moorpark Reporter sportscast. You guys just absolutely killed it. So 10 out of 10 for them.
Yeah.
Love it.
Those are some very amazing takes. It's interesting to hear that kind of perspective. All right. So
Good.
now finally, we're at the end of the year, but that doesn't mean the Moorpark Reporter is ending. We've got much more stories to go. We're still going to get some stuff out this year. But what about next year? What about spring 2021? Where do you see the paper going? In terms of, like, are there any specific things you're planning on expanding? Are there any new changes that are coming after an entire semester of all online, to either, to just change the way things are working? Just what's going to happen?
Well, okay then. So our spring semester, I kind of touched on a little bit, but we're expanding our desks. So we already have 12 new students coming in, which is fabulous. And we're going to be expanding our desks, which is also fabulous. So we're going to be launching our continual launch, really, of our layered newsroom. So rather than just having breaking news, sports, student life, arts and entertainment, we are going to be having news, breaking news, government. We're going to hope to add in, based on numbers, a couple of other desks that would include education, environment, possibly entertainment or fashion. So we're trying to really offer a little bit of everything for everyone kind of on our paper. And that will just be dependent on the kind of writers that we get, the kind of interest that they have, what their beats are. But we definitely want to make sure that we have, that we're expanding based on interest, based on our readers' interest and so forth. So that's kind of what we're looking for. One thing that we need to do that is to guarantee numbers, which we have, which is awesome. So we have people still interested in what we're doing. They want to be a part of it. And that just says a lot of the efforts that these two have done in order to kind of make sure it's a community that people want to be involved in, they feel involved in, and that they also want to continue to be involved in. In fact, everyone's coming back from the fall semester, to my knowledge, for our spring semester, which is just great. The other thing that we're going to be looking into doing, and I'm talking more broad, these two can get into a little bit more detail, but we are going to be doing our virtual junior Journalism Association of California Community Colleges. So that's what JACC is. And we'll be doing a virtual conference there in March, and we'll hope to just take the cake with a bunch of awards that we missed out on in this past year. So that's our plan. We also will start publishing stories in February. So we will give about 2 weeks of training to our newbies, also gearing up a little bit with our desk editors, hoping they'll be ready to go in January, and they'll start doing stories in January. But our new students will start up in February, on February 1st was kind of our game plan. We're also going to be kind of revising our kind of community awareness a little bit, just to encourage desk editors to kind of have ownership over their department a little bit more. and just kind of create further a community so that everyone just feels like they have a specific purpose and that they're needed, and that their writing can be inherently enhanced throughout the next semester. So I think that's it as far as like broad items for us right now, but exciting. So we're expanding, which is always good.
Just to kind of continue on Kelsey's thought of like expanding and having new people. I'm really excited for next semester because of our desk editors. We have returning editors, Caitlin McHale, Danny Stepanovich, David Chavez. He's getting moved to student life, which is really exciting. And then we've added Carla Vasquez for breaking news and Aaliyah Evangelista for government. So I think that's a really great and exciting thing that we have these like senior desk editors moving on. And then we also have new desk editors that are kind of gonna continue on the legacy and just keep rolling with it, which is really exciting. And we also have Leslie Mendez as our PR director. So she's really taking charge with that and building content. And I think that's kind of what sets us, Moorpark Reporter, aside from a lot of other college newspapers, community college newspapers, is that we do have that social media presence. So we are in the 21st century, is that correct? Yeah. So we're keeping up with it. And I think that's like really exciting. I think that this semester was good experience for next semester for all the people that are returning, because they're going to be able to take on more of a like teaching role for the new people, because they know what it's like to come in and be like confused and what's going on, and it's COVID and we can't do anything. But you just got to get creative, and that's just a part of this field. And that's something that I really enjoy, is like being able to get creative. So I'm really excited for us as a whole for next year. I think we have a lot of good ideas. Kelsey she's the queen of ideas. I love her. So I'm excited. I'm excited for PR. We're taking on more of a role with that. We're doing more stuff with sports. We're doing more things with podcasts, with breaking news. I think there's just like so much. Even for people that are thinking about whether or not they should join the Moorpark Reporter, definitely we have a role for you if you want to join us. There will always be roles. There's a lot to do. So I'm really, really excited for next semester.
Yeah, 2020 has definitely been a long year for a lot of people. And going into 2021, I think we've got some bright ambitions. We've solidified the podcast desk, as you can see here, during 2020, and I'm hoping it'll go even further beyond in 2021. We're also looking at kind of taking a dab into print, which will be an interesting adventure. But also I'd like to expand our photography departments and even maybe somehow get a graphic design department that could go along with the print. That'll be interesting to go through, especially online. Also seeing the vaccine, probably not going to be in person, so it'll be interesting. But I'm definitely looking to expand our government and news departments even more now that we've split them into their own respective departments. I'd like to see kind of more data-driven articles, maybe even a more investigative focused pieces if there is anything. But we've definitely got some bright ambitions for 2021 with the 7-day daily publications and getting through that year. With JACC, we're hoping to take home some awards this year. I think we've done some phenomenal stories this past semester, and I think our writers deserve it. So on to 2021.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think we've had a lot of great stories, especially considering the circumstances. We've pumped out a lot of content. A lot of news content, a lot of sports content, a lot of arts and entertainment content. And next year is just going to be even better. Hopefully we can, depending on the interest of the writers that join us, hopefully we could get out like some fashion content, some other kinds of content, investigative content, fire content. So yeah, really excited.
All right. Big plans for 2021. I like it. All right. Well, thank you for listening to this Moorpark Reporter year-end wrap-up. Once again, I am here with our co-editors-in-chief, Emily Ledesma, and Ryan Bough. And of course, our fearless leader and faculty advisor, Kelsey Stuart, who had to step away at the end here, but she will return in 2021. Thank you.